All right, so moving on to the next segment, we're going to pivot here to the sport of boxing, and I'll be sharing my thoughts on how special the boxing welterweight division was from the years of 2017 to 2023. How special was the welterweight division? So for the time frame of 2017 to 2023, I think the welterweight division was as hot as any division in the sport of boxing, and it was probably one of the most deepest divisions in the sport at the time based on how much talent was in this welterweight division. I mean, we had big time names of Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence, Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Ugas, Sean Porter, Kell Brooks, Adrian Broner, and towards the back end of those years of 2017 to 2023, we've seen new stars born at this welterweight division, that being Virgil Ortiz Jr. and Jaron Ennis. So we've seen a lot happen at this welterweight division from that time frame, and I think it was one of the most special times in boxing based off of the talent alone at this welterweight division and the runs that we've seen at this welterweight division. So let's go in a deeper dive of it. And the division, not only was the division so stacked, but the division had so much to offer and had so many great fights at that time frame. I mean, you had some all-time greats fighting each other, and Sean Porter was low-key the dark horse MVP of this welterweight division from 2017 to 2023 because he was the former WBC and held the IBF titles not at the same time, but held them at this time frame at this welterweight division. And Sean Porter got in the ring with the best of the best. He was never ducking smoke. He fought Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence, Keith Thurman, Ugas, Adrian Broner, and Kell Brooks. That is one hell of a run. He went 3-3 in that. He went 3-3 in that time frame. But the fact that you got in the ring with the best of the best proves that Sean Porter was not afraid of the smoke. And that fight with Earl Spence was a split decision loss. I mean, there's no shame in getting knocked out by Terrence Crawford. I'll get into that in a few moments. But he was winning that fight until the stoppage later on in the second half of that fight. Won against Adrian Broner by unanimous decision, defeated Kell Brooks as well. Sean Porter, I think he put together a Hall of Fame career when you think about it as well. Held 2 titles at this welterweight division, fought the best of the best. Low-key, the dark horse MVP of this division at that time frame. And then you look at the run that Terrence Crawford had. Terrence Crawford defeated every opponent by knockout at the welterweight division. And he fought his way to becoming a 2-time undisputed champion. Because remember, Terrence Crawford became undisputed at 140, then eventually moved up to 147 and became a undisputed champion in 2 different weight classes, starting all the way from 135. And that's when Terrence Crawford, he started at the lightweight division to kick off his boxing career and had one of the greatest welterweight runs of all time, knocking out all of his opponents and collecting all the titles that there were to be held at this welterweight division. So Terrence Crawford's run helped to become one of the greatest welterweight fighters of boxing history. That's how special Terrence Crawford was at the welterweight division in this time frame. And let's not count out Earl Spence. Earl Spence defeating Sean Porter, Ugas, Kell Brooks, Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia to become a unified welterweight champion, holding 3 out of the 4 prestigious titles, the WBC, WBA, and the IBF titles. Earl Spence was on one hell of a run as well and showed the grit and determination of what it's like to become a unified champion at this division that was stacked top to bottom. And then you look at someone like Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was in the back end of his career, late 30s, early 40s. Manny Pacquiao was still proving at this welterweight division that he still had it. And had that impressive unanimous decision victory against Adrian Broner and became a WBA world champion, defeating Keith Thurman, the first man and the only man to defeat Keith Thurman in his boxing career. But one of the regrets that I have about Manny Pacquiao is I wish he fought either Earl Spence or Terrence Crawford in this time frame. Never got in the ring with either these respective fighters. But we were this close in the summer of 2021. If you guys remember, we were supposed to get a title unification fight with Earl Spence and Manny Pacquiao, but Earl Spence had to pull out of the fight due to an eye injury, which set up for Ugas to fight Manny Pacquiao. And Ugas, stepping up on a 12 days notice, ended up defeating Manny Pacquiao I believe by unanimous decision. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize. But Ugas was actually the guy to make Manny Pacquiao retire, because after that, Manny retired and went off to the sunset. How much that would have affected Earl Spence's career if he was the one to end Manny Pacquiao's career and had a unanimous decision victory over Manny Pacquiao, that would have did wonders for his career. I mean, Earl Spence is already a Hall of Famer in my opinion, but that would have been even better for Earl Spence's resume if he did get in the ring and defeat Manny Pacquiao. But the only regrets I have is this welterweight division we did, even though the time that we did get Spence and Crawford, it didn't live up to the hype. And it was very unfortunate that it was a one-sided belt-to-ass treatment that Terrence Crawford gave Earl Spence in that boxing ring that night. And we have not seen Earl Spence in the boxing ring yet, or since then. And that was the summer of 2023. So we're really closing in on 2 years of Earl Spence not being in the boxing ring. But as I digress, politics were the reason why it took forever to get Spence versus Crawford. I think, and not to say any excuses, because you have to give Terrence Crawford his credit, but could it have been a different outcome or a different type of fight? Could it have been more competitive if we got this fight without Earl Spence going through several accidents? And again, I'm not using that excuse for how Crawford dismantled and dominating, but you guys got to look at it at how Spence was before the accidents, and then his style, how style started to slow down afterwards. So, but politics were a reason why that Terrence Crawford and Earl Spence took forever to make happen. Due to the fact that Earl Spence was signed with PBC and Al Heyman, and Terrence Crawford was signed with ESPN Top Rank and Bob Arum. Politics at the time, promoters did not want to work with each other, and you could not do business with people across the street from each other, which was one of the reasons why we got Earl Spence versus Terrence Crawford so late, and we should have got it much sooner. But another regret is the fact that Earl Spence, towards the end of this time frame of what I'll call the golden age of the welterweight division from 2017 to 2023, is Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford also held all the titles. Earl Spence holding 3 and Crawford holding 1. It took forever to get this fight, and they held the titles hostage because towards the end of that time frame, both were inactive in the ring and only fought once a year until they finally got that fight. So those are the only regrets that I have at the welterweight division, and possibly the fact that Jaron Ennis was growing at this welterweight division. Now he's a world champion holding the IBF title, but it was unfortunate that he never, someone that was rising up in the division, became an interim champion, never got his shot against either Earl Spence or Terrence Crawford at this welterweight division. So those are the only regrets, but one hell of a division. I mean, the fights we got, Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia. I mean, there were so many moments that we got at this welterweight division from 2017 to 2023. I gotta say, it's definitely missed, but not forgotten. And I gotta say, that time frame was probably, it's in the conversation for being the best division in the sport of boxing. It's debatable at that time frame as well how hot the lightweight division was for 2017 and 2023. I'll have probably talk about that on a different day. But yes, those are my thoughts on the boxing welterweight division from 2017 to 2023.